Day trading is a lot like roasting a marshmallow. Getting a perfect entry is about being as close to the flame as possible without getting burned. It takes time and patience. Fucking shit! What's going on, guys? It's K-Dub here with another episode of Crypto Zombie. So today is Saturday. Welcome back to the channel. Hope you're having a great start to your week. Having a look at Bitcoin. Up 1% today, we'll take it. So essentially what is going on? Well, you can see right here, Bitcoin dipped down to about $7,875, to which it instantly pumped up to $8,104. So we kind of put in a little bit of an upside down Bart Simpson, but you can see right here, currently we've put in, we're trying to put in our fourth red candle on the 30 minutes. So it doesn't look like it's having a very strong reaction to this pump. So I do want to talk about this. Is this just a bit of a fake out? Should we be worried? Are we definitely going to go lower? Well, that is exactly what I want to talk about today specifically, because there has been a lot of bearish sentiment in the market, right? But I do want to talk about a few key things. Number one, being the fact that the Fed is, coming to the rescue again with another $104 billion, on top of the fact that you are hearing about this looming potential chance of a recession, right, up to 35%. So that might be more of like a fundamental thing. But technically speaking, I need to talk about one chart which has been very bullish, and the last 4 times it predicted this correctly, Bitcoin had a massive blast off, despite short-term price action. So I think that's the most probably exciting thing to talk about today. So if that sounds good to you, well, you know what to do. Also, if you're not subscribed to the Crypto Zombie channel, well, we do this every single day and you're probably missing out at this point. And also don't forget, we give away one Ledger Nano S every single Monday to one lucky winner. All you got to do is drop a comment on literally any video throughout the course of the week and you are eligible. Now, giving this a quick refresh live, you are noticing Bitcoin dominance up 0.1%. 0.1%, but we'll take it, right? So do we have any big gainers today? We have Tyrion up 15%, Holo, ABBC, Newton, Solve, Tron, Bitcoin Diamond, and Zcoin all doing quite well today. Still not very happy with this volume. However, it's the weekend, and every weekend we always have a lot lower volume, but this is why not only is Bitcoin actually at a very crucial level, which we're going to get into in just a second, but we do know that sometimes on the end of the weekends, especially for the US, usually Sunday night, sometimes into Monday morning, we see these really big explosive moves in Bitcoin. And I'm going to show you why I think we're going to be having one very soon, maybe today, probably within the next 3 days. I'm going to show you in just a second, and we're going to rapid fire through today, make it super quick for you guys. I know it's the weekend. You can see right here, we do have essentially almost neutral to, very low, mild buys. Now, this morning, the shorts were actually up to almost 54%. And I was saying to myself, this is probably going to end in a bit of a short squeeze. And nevertheless, we did have that, upside down BART, right? So, also before we go on, I just wanted to say happy 600,000th block for Bitcoin. Yes, buy Bitcoin or you will be poor for your entire life. I like this. I like this thing that Frenzo's got here. So yeah. Okay. Well, anyway, having a look at the charts, we need to talk about what's going on, because essentially Bitcoin just keeps putting these sort of downwards sort of channels. It pumps. It puts in another one. You can see we had one here, pump, 2, pump. We had this little one, pump, and now we're putting in another one. Now here's the thing. You could see right here, we tried to get above it, but what we did is we actually wicked down to the center line right here, and we got above it, but we got stomped out by the resistance. So you can see right here, Bitcoin usually either kind of chills on the bottom, or it pumps up, then it sort of chills in the top, then it goes down to the bottom. But essentially, this is a descending channel, right? Now, I do want to point out that we did have some nice volume try to come into that, but keep in mind, overall volume is still very low. So, low volume, you could also kind of say that that's low confidence, maybe at the same time, right? So having a look right now, I do still believe we are in a bit of a ascending, broadening wedge, you could see right here. So I would be looking for a massive move if we can actually break above this sort of purple resistance right here. Yeah, let me just make this a little bit smaller. If we actually break out of this, say we get above it from this point, or we could even start from where we're at right now, to the green line, you're looking at about a 10% pump. Maybe if we get to the yellow resistance, that's like a 12.75%. So that could be a very good trade for anybody looking to long. And I'm going to tell you in a little bit, if you want to take the safer way of trading, there's a little bit more of a risky way, and there's a little bit more of a safer way you can do it. I'll get into that in just a second. But, I do want to point out that these resistances and supports are all basically coming from these key levels down here. Obviously, this major resistance that held us down is the key to get above, because this is essentially the last resistance before we had that major dump, right? But you can see the support is also acting as a support as well. But like I said, it's very critical, and looking at around, I'm looking at it basically by the end of this week, but, if we go to the very end, you're looking at around October 21st. But, Bitcoin usually tends to make a move a lot sooner than the end. Now, a lot of people are still talking about this potential death cross, which is bearish. I'm not going to go into it today. We went into it in yesterday's video. I went into all the possible scenarios. I showed you guys how these actually have had fake outs in the past where they either crossed and then instantly reverted, or they came so close that they almost kissed, but, then they didn't actually end up doing anything. Let me just show you a real one quick example. See, here's a fake out. Okay, here's an example right here in which, people probably were saying to themselves, oh my God, this is definitely going to be a death cross, and it never came. And Bitcoin actually, from that point, you guys want to see this is actually pretty funny. From the moment that the death cross happened, the death cross was about to happen, Bitcoin actually pumped 1,082%. So definitely take that with a grain of salt. But obviously Peter Schiff, he couldn't pass up the opportunity to, be a Bitcoin bear. He says the Bitcoin chart looks horrible. Not only does the flag that followed the recent breakdown project a move to 6K, but we are close to completing the right shoulder of a head and shoulders top with a 14K head and neckline just below 8K that projects a collapse to below $2,000. So essentially you're saying that we're putting in a giant head and shoulders pattern where this is essentially the lopsided Quasimodo head and these are the shoulders. Could be, possibly, but we know that in Bitcoin, these types of, sort of patterns can be very ambiguous, okay? But you can see right here, they had a long, basically heated conversation here on Twitter between Peter Schiff and Pomp. They were going back and forth. You guys could check this out essentially, but, he does mention that only 1% of the world's population, which is less than 70 million, owns Bitcoin. It's more scarce than gold. So Pomp basically said to Peter, you must not understand supply and demand economics, right? But moving on, you can see right here, it is very common for Bitcoin to have these 44%, 45% retracements because remember, guys, we are at the very beginning. We are not in the parabolic run just yet. We haven't even had the halving yet. So you can see 45%, 40%, and we've currently had 44%. I can even verify that for you right now if you guys want to see, from top to bottom. Yeah, that's 43.92%, basically 44%, give or take, right? So let's talk about the fact that Bitcoin has been supported by the 100 weekly, not one, not two, not three, but the fourth week, which I do consider short-term quite bullish. The altcoins now may give us a little bit of a clue as to what might be happening next with Bitcoin, because you're noticing the altcoins, this is total, is all the altcoins excluding Bitcoin are being held down by this major resistance right here. And the reason is because Bitcoin looks like it's coiling up for another potential breakout in its dominance. This is Bitcoin dominance. You can see it coiled, exploded, descending wedge, exploded, descending wedge, exploded, and currently we are at the very, very, very end of another descending wedge for Bitcoin. So if we do have an explosion, especially if Bitcoin can get back above this 70% overall cap, well, then not only would that be very bullish for Bitcoin, obviously for the price, but not that history has to repeat itself, but 1, 2, 3, and it looks like it might be happening a fourth time. So let me know what you guys think, but as you can see right here, I still do believe that Bitcoin will continue to be supported by this trend that basically was our support and resistance starting way back here when we fell into the channel. Actually, this was at the end of 2018. So currently, I do still have my eyes on that level. If Bitcoin was to drop on the bearish side, I would say we would probably get supported around the 7.4K. And this red line right here is my absolute bottom, which is why I believe that Bitcoin will not fall lower than $7,000. It's just my opinion. I could be totally wrong, but that's what I'm seeing here, guys. Let me know if you feel any different about that. So how can you play this situation? Well, Jacob Canfield actually put this out over here on TradingView. I'd be happy to drop this below if you guys are interested. In fact, I will give this a like for Jacob. Thank you very much. And, essentially, if you want to trade this pattern, there's two ways that you could do it, right? So we're trapped inside this channel. So the first thing you could do is you can put in a long, basically at the bottom, like what I did essentially yesterday, what I told you guys, with a tight stop, okay? So in case we fall below it. Now, that's a little bit more of the riskier thing to do. What is the less risky thing to do? Well, the less risky thing to do would wait to essentially break up possible retest of previous resistance here, right? So getting above some of those key levels, like if we get above the 200 daily moving average, if we get above 8.8K, right? Which actually, this is actually really interesting. Let me just show you this right now. If I switch this to the daily and get all this madness out of here and just put on the 200 daily, you'll actually notice that, it's basically sitting at around that $8,800 level. So that's a very, very, very significant level. Just want to point that out, guys. So like I said, if you are looking to trade that, essentially, yeah, you guys would wait for it to basically confirm that you are broken above the resistance, put in some kind of a candle, right? Close on the 4 hour of the daily and then enter your trade. However, the thing is you might want to be pretty quick with that because we do know that once Bitcoin starts to take off, sometimes it just goes straight up, right? So it is a little risky to play that, but, we are keeping our eyes on this. Like I said, this is looking like a little bit of a weak bounce back. Hopefully we can stay above that $8,000 level. But like I said, around that 7,000, you can even go down to 7,966 almost. I would say, maybe we might just be going back to the norm. But that being said, guys, having a look over here, we have had some nice opportunities. Market Cipher did give actually a nice green over here for the long. And down here, there was this little tiny one on the blue wave. So that's kind of where I took the opportunity to put in the long. If you guys don't know what Market Cipher is, I do have a video on that. I'll drop it above. But we do usually use that with Bybit. So if you are looking to trade with Bybit, obviously you can check out my video. Link is below as well. But the reason why I do think we will be having a very, very, very big move soon for Bitcoin is simply because the Bollinger Bands are just absolutely they really can't get much tighter than this. And the one thing I wanted to point out is the VPVR is actually sitting at $7,967 and Bitcoin is currently sitting at $8,012, which means we have respected that level. We keep sitting on that level. And that's a good thing because honestly, if we fall below that, yeah, guys, you're looking at about 7.6, 7.4, and then, we're probably going down to that 7.1 level to close out the 4 hour CME futures gap. But like I said, guys, 7,000, I'm still looking at the low, or we may have already put in the bottom at the 7.7K. But here's the most bullish thing of all, and if you stayed this long in the video, you're going to appreciate this. And Crypto Hamster actually tagged me in this tweet, so thanks, buddy. So essentially what we're looking at right here is the BitMEX funding and premium index, okay? And essentially right here, you could see that it basically either flips, it either goes above 0 to 0.1 or below 0 to negative 0.1. And you can see that every time right here, it goes above and we're in the pink, we essentially look for a dump. And you can see right here, confirmed, we dumped. Every time we fall below and we're in the blue, well, you could see we look for a bit of a pump. Well, Bitcoin started to pump and then it continued, right? Well, currently we are putting in a blue and you guys could see clearly here the last time we had a pump. So the question is, should we be ready for the next pump? Let me know what you guys think. But the last 3 times this happened, we did have a major pump. Even this little one right here, you can count if you want. So that being said, guys, let's talk about the fundamentals and then let's get on out of here. So the U.S. Federal Reserve has continued its streak of quantitative easing by pouring in funds to uphold the confidence that liquidity won't dry out. The latest sum, $104 billion. Is almost close to Bitcoin's loss-adjusted market valuation, which is absolutely incredible. You can see the Fed has issued a series of overnight or longer-term facilities putting securities on its balance in exchange for fiat. We don't have this problem with Bitcoin. In fact, Bitcoin solves this problem, but this increases the available funds for commercial banks and is supposed to give confidence that liquidity and interbank payments won't dry out. For the crypto community, this is a case of essentially printing money out of thin air, right? So you can see right here, quick recession in stock market thread. They are demanding a possibility for a global recession, and these things usually do see assets like precious metals, like gold and silver usually tend to be a hedge. And, maybe this time around, Bitcoin will also be that hedge as well. Just wanted to also address this little thing that came out from basically Bloomberg Digital's executive editor, Joe Weisenthal. Essentially, he says you can shut Bitcoin down. He says if you're building or launching these institutionally grade products, how sure are you that down the road regulators won't come in and shut it all down. There's so much interest in this space, but is anyone thinking this through? Okay, so he's basically talking about the introduction of Wall Street level products that would boost the number in both kinds, speculators and transactors. He says if you're in the business of creating institutional on-ramps to crypto, you have to be cognizant of the risk that one day regulators wake up and ask, wait, why did we provide a gateway to provide liquidity into a space whose express purpose is to let people evade the man? Okay, well, yes, you're right. The government could come in and say, hey, Coinbase, you need to shut down. They could say, hey, Bakkt, you need to shut down. But you know what they can't do? They can't actually shut down Bitcoin. Bitcoin is borderless. As you can see right here, Pompliano basically said this is wildly inaccurate. You're claiming that non-censorship is the only value proposition of Bitcoin? What about non-seizure element? What about the disinflationary monetary supply or the sound money element or the pseudo-anonymousness that Bitcoin has? Please stop writing nonsense and misinformation. So yes, they can never actually truly ban Bitcoin. They can never actually truly shut Bitcoin down. And anybody that thinks that, no, they can try to choke the on-ramps, right? But they can never ban Bitcoin. So don't believe this. This is just FUD. So I do want to end on some good news, and then let's get on out of here. Number one, BlockFi. You guys might be familiar with them. In fact, so many of you keep asking me about BlockFi. At this point, I'm probably just going to end up making a video about it because you guys keep asking. But it says they're a cryptocurrency lending startup. And so basically, they've launched BlockFi Institutional Services, which is a platform designed to give institutional investors such as market makers, hedge funds, exchanges, and family offices exposure to financing solutions for digital assets. And also, I know, like I do say on this channel, obviously not your private keys, not your Bitcoin, but in reality, unfortunately, there are a lot of people out there just in the real world, just regular everyday people that just don't care about that responsibility. And unfortunately, they would rather have somebody hold their funds for them. Is it Satoshi's vision? No. But that's the reality, and it'll also, that's going to help for adoption. Now, also, look at this. You have Crypto.com made their pay checkout plugin available for WooCommerce merchants, which claims about 30% of the world's online stores. So when you're talking about crypto mass adoption, understand that these things take time. You don't just go from 0 to 100, right? Think about when the automobile came out, or, it's not like everybody just suddenly had a car. Now most people do. But think about how long it took to get a car into every household, right? Dash recently announced a partnership with a number of payment providers, that reach including Overstock.com. You have some of France's largest retailers are planning to accept Bitcoin by 2020. You could buy Bitcoin from 7-Eleven in the Philippines. An Icelandic firm just settled a payment from IKEA using the Ethereum blockchain. It's even possible to use cryptocurrencies to buy food at refugee camps. And if that's not enough for you, shout out to this person who is actually a member of the Crypto Zombies community, who is actually selling a former English church that's been converted to a 7-bedroom home for around 150 Bitcoin, or roughly $1.56 million at the time of writing this. So if that's not adoption, I don't know what is. So having a look at this, yes, it is a little bit difficult. We're kind of... it was a strong pump, but right now it's kind of dipping. Guys, the problem is we need more volume. See, we had the volume and then the volume dipped off again. So it is the weekend. I am expecting some crazy moves, but let me know what you guys think. Are you short-term bullish or bearish on Bitcoin? Do you think we're going to go down to some of these crazy low levels? Do you think we're going to have one last shakeout? We usually do. Or do you think